This video is going to be a review of an assignment I assigned from the Drafting Fundamentals module, and it's also going to introduce a new assignment that's going to be worth some marks. So, earlier in the Drafting Fundamentals module, I had assigned this practice worksheet for you to complete on your own time at home. Now, I'd like you to compare what you've done to the answer key. So this module here, Orthographic Sketching Problems, it says carefully read through all the information contained in this module. So let's first take a look at the answer key. And if your answers look like mine, then you can give yourself a nice pat on the back. Okay, so here are the solutions for the block. So we have our front view, always bottom left, our top view, right side view. Same thing with the slider, same order. The tongue, and the step guide. Now you're going to notice the step guide has a broken line on the top view here. So it is 2 grid spaces from the right, and that is because this rabbit joint or slot underneath is actually hidden from view. So basically 2 squares depth. When I look at this from the top, I have to represent that space where it ends with a hidden line. So this is something new as we're getting into third angle projection. Any feature on a drawing which you cannot see with your naked eye still has to be shown and represented with a hidden detail line. So that is something that you probably didn't add to your drawing, but if you've done everything else correctly, you can add it on now. Let's take a look at the back page. Now this page was like unfolding the glass box from the PowerPoint. So we have our top, front, right side, bottom, left side, rear in this same order. So this is the riser piece. So we see our front view looking in this direction. We have our right side view, top view, and the left side view is the opposite of the right. The line becomes the opposite effect on the diagonal and is hidden from view. When we look at this from the left, we cannot see that angled cutaway. When we look at this from the back, we have to show a hidden line running vertically to represent the change in surface here that is normally seen perfectly from the front. And then the same thing from the bottom. This basically looks the same as it does from the back. Here we have the machine key. So the front view, 2.5 grid steps. The key part, two grid steps, 2 by 2. We have what it looks like from the right side here. What it looks like from the left side here. Again, this key part becomes hidden detail because we can't notice it from the left. The top, very straightforward. We can actually see the radius on the back. We see this piece, the key piece attached to it easily. The bottom view, this is hard to notice. It looks pretty much the same from the bottom, except this part right here, which is shown as solid on the top view, is shown as a hidden detail line. Because we have to represent that change in the step, right? This isn't flush with the top. It comes down by 1 step. So we have to actually represent that change in height with a hidden detail line. And then from the rear, it looks pretty much identical to the front. It's just inverted. It's flipped. So this is your answer key. I'd like you to take a look at what you've done. Take a look at this. If yours looks different than mine, then you may need some more remedial practice with this concept. If you don't understand this assignment, you're not to move on with the second assignment until you understand it. So you're going to have to come and talk to me and get some help. Moving on. So this is going to be the assignment. Orthographic projection blocks 1 to 24. Let's take a look at it. So we have 24 blocks on this sheet. The front view is always identified with an arrow. So we always know which view is the front view. And from there, we should always understand where the top view is and where the right side view is based on that orientation of the front. It only labels it as front on the first example, but every other problem has the arrow which identifies it, which is fine. They also identify it on problem 13. Again, nowhere else. So there's 24 of these. Now, you're going to be creating the orthographic projection for these top, front, and right side on grid paper with a pencil and a ruler. Now, do you have to do all 24? No, you don't. I want you to do half. I want you to do 12 of them. So let's go over the instructions specifically. It says here in the hub, complete a 3-view orthographic projection of the following isometric blocks 1 to 23 only. Skip all of the even numbers. Use the grid paper supplied to you and make sure your pencil is always sharp. So if your pencil is always sharp, you're going to have a much easier time doing this. If your pencil is dull, you're going to run into some issues. So always keep your pencil sharp. Use a ruler to keep your line work straight and neat, meaning don't freehand this. Use a ruler, keep everything straight and neat. You're going to get marks for neatness. Number all problems and leave a grid space between views. And don't forget to add hidden detail lines where required. And we just talked about where to add those in the fundamentals practice sheet. Remember to use proper format for basic 3-view orthographic projection. The front view is always identified on the sheet with the arrow, which we've discussed. You may use a drafter's circle template to assist you in the drawing of your radii and circles as required. Now, only people that are coming to class face-to-face have this advantage. People that are working remotely do not, unless they have a drafter's template at home. Note, watch the scale of the grid spaces as not all of them count as a whole. All right, so let's take a look at how this is going to be assessed. So here's your rubric. There's 2 halves to the assignment. Odds 1 to 23 or evens 2 to 24. So we're doing the odds 1 to 23. That means we're doing 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, etc. Right? We're counting odd numbers. So this goes in the curriculum as A3, representing design ideas graphically. So let's go over the levels. Level 0. Drawings are not in orthographic projection and they are missing one or more of the required views. Level 1. Drawings are not in correct orthographic projection. The top, front, and right side views are completed but are not placed in any definite relation to one another. Meaning an example is you have all 3 views done correctly, but they're just kind of thrown on the sheet of paper anywhere they go. And they have to be aligned together as we've talked about. Level 2. Drawings are an orthographic projection, but some features of the views are not aligned properly or are in the correct projection plane. So that means one view may be slightly out of alignment with the other or more, or something or a feature is just not shown as it should look in a certain view orientation. Level 3. Drawings are in complete and correct orthographic projection, and some of the object and or hidden lines are missing or are not shown appropriately. So if you forget some hidden lines, if you're not drafting something correctly, that's slightly off. That's going to cost some marks in the level 3 range. Level 4, drawing is in complete and correct orthographic projection and includes all of the object lines and hidden lines where they are shown appropriately, and a ruler was used to keep the line work neat. So you're basically, like, you could be doing everything perfectly for level 4, including all the hidden lines, all of the views lined up perfectly, but if you free-handed it, it's going to put you into the low level of level 4. If you start missing a hidden line here or there, you miss an object line here, a hidden line there, it's going to give you like a low level 4 mark. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be assigning every problem a level, and I'm just going to create an average from that, and that's how you're going to get your mark out of 10. It doesn't seem like a lot of marks, but remember, it doesn't matter what it's out of, it's how it's weighted in your grade calculation, how much percentage I give it. I have an example here. So let's take a look at this sheet again. So I've done the first problem for you. Actually, I'm going to show it to you. So the front view, this is always going to be bottom left. The top view will go right on top of it, aligned in the correct orientation, and the right side view will go to the right of the front view. I'm going to leave one grid step between the views, so don't butt them right up against each other. And your scale is the grid. So for example, the front view should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares long by 1, 2, 3, 4 squares high. The top view would be 3 squares wide by 5 squares long, and your right side view would be 4 squares high by 3 squares long. What does that look like? Right here. So here's number 1. Now this is not, I'm going to have to flip this around because I did this and I scanned it. So I'm going to go to rotate clockwise. Okay, this looks better. So I just started it. This is done totally correct, but I have 11 more to do because I have to do 12. So I've done what the instructions tell me. I've put my name on it. I've numbered the first problem, and I've correctly, with a pencil and a ruler, neatly drawn the solution to orthographic drawing problem number 1. And again, it's 5 squares long, 4 squares high. Where this front view and top view, they start in the same grid space line. The line that represents the change in height on this step lines up perfectly with the front view. Same thing with the right side view. So all the features of the drawing are orthographically aligned. I could, in theory, draw a broken line between every single feature from each view, and everything would be lined up perfectly. Now, so number 3 would go here, and I would do number 3 in this space. Now, here's a mistake that students like to make. They don't have any spatial awareness, so they'll take the front view and they'll sketch it with a pencil and ruler up here where the top view is. Then they're like, oh no, I don't have enough room for my top view. You know what I'll do? I'll just put my top view underneath of it, and I'll just draw an arrow saying, oh, I really meant to put it up here, I didn't have room. You can't do things like that. If you want to have full marks, you're going to do things correctly. You're going to do it like you've seen here in this example. Now, I could have done another example, but I don't want to do all the work for you. So this is something that you're going to work on today in your off day when you're not at school. So this will take you some time. If you like to leave the later ones to work on in class, that's fine. If you want to borrow one of my Drafter's Circle templates, please feel free. I have several of them, and you can use that to make your work neat. So that concludes your instructions for today. Good luck, and talk to you soon.